Yep, it came up on my end that it is recording.
All right. That's good. All right, Chris, what we'll do is I'll ask you a couple of questions, and then we've got a couple of newspapers on here as well. Jeff Birchfield with the Johnson City Press and Alan Gregory with the Bristol Herald Courier, and they'll jump in and ask you a couple of questions. We'll just kind of go round robin like that, and then we'll share this video. A couple of the TV stations just texted me. They're out running around, but they say that they will run the video. So we will forward that over to them once we're finished.
Beautiful.
All right, so I'll get started. Guys, we're joined today by Chris Ferguson, driver of the number 22 Super Late model from Mount Holly, North Carolina. Last year, he won the $10,000 to win Super Late model feature on Friday night, March 19th, 2021, during the inaugural Carl Customs Bristol Dirt Nationals. And Chris, that night, you beat Kyle Larson, which he finished second that race. Not a lot of guys have done that on dirt the last few years. What do you remember most from that race, and how cool was that racing toe-to-toe with him and holding him off for the win?
Yeah, I just remember how big the atmosphere was. We've raced at some big events like Eldora's, Dream 100, the World 100s, the World Finals, but nothing quite captures that feeling of being inside of a stadium, like being at Bristol and being there and driving up on the roof for victory, or on the roof of a building for Victory Lane was, I don't know, it was just career defining. It was something that was so big that it didn't really settle in for a couple months. And then on top of that, racing with Kyle with the year he had last year, winning the Cup championship and everything that he's won on dirt, the fact that I can say I was one of the few that outrun him, even when he was at his best. And then not only that, but also having, in my opinion, Jonathan Davenport and Scott Bloomquist, two of the other biggest names in racing, dirt track racing, run second or third and fourth, was just it was a feather in my cap that I'll never forget.
Where do you rank that one and all the wins that you've had? I know you've had a lot of wins in super late model racing, but where would you rank that one?
That's definitely at the top. I've had some other prestigious wins, but as far as the amount of people that were watching and the people that congratulated me and the people from outside of short track racing watching was it was absolutely ridiculous. I got texts from NASCAR drivers that I've known over the years and texts from people that don't even watch dirt racing or racing in general that said congratulations on winning Bristol. And it was by far just the biggest, probably the biggest accomplishment that I've ever been able to capture in my career.
Now, looking forward to this year, a lot of money on the line. This is part of the XR Super Series this year, the 4 races, 4 feature races. And each one of those this year, you won 10,000 last year. This year, each one of those races, $50,000 to win. So what kind of madness do you think that's going to create among the drivers going for that kind of money over, 4 races over, 2 weekends?
Yeah, the purse itself is so big that you're gonna have a lot of people driving a lot harder than they normally do. Not only that, but then the points, the purse with the 100 grand for the total points for all 4 nights is just the icing on the cake. So there's a lot of people that's gonna step up. My team personally, we're taking the next 2 weeks off to prepare for that, just because it's so big. And it's such a elaborate, purse that can completely change your race season. Like, you win that race, win one of those races, and then win, the points purse. It covers your entire year in expenses. So, there's gonna be a lot of people driving hard, and there's gonna be a lot of people show up that people aren't expecting.
All right, we'll go ahead and take questions here. We'll take our first one from Alan Gregory with Bristol Herald Courier. Go ahead, Alan.
Yes, Chris, what was the key to your success there last year?
Surprisingly, I really think our race cars, the Bloomquist designed race cars, they're really good at the big half miles. And typically speaking, Scott Bloomquist, the guy who designed my race car, has won every race that you can possibly win at Eldora. And he also won 20 years ago at Bristol when they put dirt on it the first time. I believe he dominated, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that was one of the keys. And the other big key is I grew up on half mile tracks, like Lancaster Speedway in Lancaster, South Carolina. Cherokee Speedway was a half mile when I first started. Withville. I'm used to the bigger, faster tracks, and I think that was the one of the keys that we had to have to win.
All right, we'll take a question now from Jeff Birchfield. Go ahead, Jeff.
Chris, just winning at Bristol last year, you talked about what a big win that was. How did that sort of, for the rest of your season, give you like some momentum and all?
Yeah, I think at that moment people started to realize that I was one of those guys that could step up in the big moments. So when I had my good runs at the premier events, whether it was the Show Me 100, the Eldora races, the Dreams of the World 100s, I think people started to see me in a different light, that I could, contend at these big races, and not only contend, but win one with all the big names there. So it just kind of set the tone for the year, and I had confidence going into those big races that we could win.
Chris, can you describe best, or is there a way that you can describe in words like what a lap around Bristol dirt is like in a super late model?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, we were running, I think, 15-second laps, which I believe is just on pace, if not faster than the Cup car. So, as far as dirt goes, there's not another racetrack that duplicates that speed. You drive into the corner, you don't let off, and you feel the G-forces there more than anywhere else. And not only that, but when you go down the straightaways, there's not one single track that I've been to that the car turns left because the banking. Typically speaking, you have to make the car turn left. The way we raced at Bristol, it was so fast that the car just naturally pulled left. We didn't. If you pumped yourself up enough, you could go out there like I did and hold it wide open for 2 laps. And there's not a lot of places you can do that. So when I first went out for practice, I didn't know which one was the front stretch and the back stretch. It was so fast. So it took me like 2 or 3 laps getting comfortable to really get used to the speed, but there's nothing else like it.
All right, we'll go back to Alan with the question.
Yes, Chris, was it always a goal of yours to race at Bristol at some point in your career? And what did that event mean for dirt racing in general? And I know we had a lot of dirt racing diehards at Bristol for the first time. Was it a big picture race too in that regard?
Oh, 1,000%. I said it a few times before, but when I was a kid, my dad took me to the first dirt race there in 2000 or 2001. And I remember sitting up in the stands thinking, man, there's nothing like this. And so to go up there and actually win, really kind of blew my mind. But the fact that you see, there was a lot of dirt fans at Bristol for the first time. There was a lot of NASCAR fans tuning in. There was a lot of NASCAR drivers and team crew guys, and so many people watching. I think that it brought short track racing and NASCAR and all forms of racing together for something that a lot of people had never seen. Not only seeing dirt late models for the first time, but also seeing Bristol for the first time, or dirt racing at Bristol. I think it was such a big moment that it can't be duplicated because there's not another Bristol.
All right, we'll go back to Jeff.
Chris, you mentioned NASCAR. Do you have any aspirations of one day running NASCAR? Are you just happy, running like the late model lifestyle there. Seems like, a lot of guys just do that for their entire careers.
Yeah, surprisingly, with me being from Charlotte, I've grown up in the community of NASCAR. I've got a lot of good friends, guys that I talk to on a daily basis, Eric Jones and Cole Custer, and a handful of others that I do get to see that racing lifestyle that they have. And as much as I would have liked to done that when I was younger, as I progressed as a driver and grew up, I realized my passion was with dirt late model racing. It wasn't with NASCAR or anything else. In my opinion, what I enjoy driving the most is a dirt late model. I think it's the most fun, and it's a sport that's very giving. And the opportunities that we've gotten the last handful of years has really set the tone for us to be well off for a long time with the sport.
And sort of what are all the different types of cars you have been fortunate enough to drive over your career?
Grew up racing go-karts, but drove a Bandolero car, asphalt go-karts, Hooters Pro Cup car, E-Mod. I think Ray Evernham built them for a little bit. Dirt Mod. Basically, well, I actually got to drive a K&N car one time at a test. Basically everything on dirt besides the open wheel stuff, because those guys are crazy. I just don't think I'd get in one of those. But I've raced a little bit of everything, just kind of found my home with the dirt late models.
So Chris, with a year of experience under your belt, getting the win last year, is there anything differently you'll do this year approaching the race? Is there anything that anything that you learned from last year that you can apply to this year?
Oh, for sure. I've already went back and watched the video numerous times. And on the second night, when Davenport won, I actually led a pretty good bit of that race. So we went back, looked at our notes, and we seen where we had an issue, and we've addressed it since then. We're actually going to be taking the same car that we won with last year, which is awesome because that car seemed to really get around that place the whole night. So we're looking at notes, and we've made some decisions on how we're going into the race that's a little bit different than last year. So I think all we could do is I think we're going to be good. I think that we're right where we need to be to hopefully continue on what we did last year.
All right, we'll go back to Alan. Do you have another question for Chris?
Yeah, just two more there.
Okay.
Chris, what was the neatest part of the whole deal last year? And do you feel a little bit of pressure now to repeat that win?
Yeah, for sure. I do feel the pressure because I looked at what it did for me and what the win did for me as far as opportunities with sponsors, with partners, with people that already support me. And I want that big moment again. Everyone wants it. We all strive to have those wins and those career defining moments. So, I definitely feel the pressure to go back and run good. One of the things that I don't really talk about a ton, but something that I do feel a little bit of pressure about is outrunning Kyle or some of the big name guys. I'm a dirt late model guy, so when we have other big names guys like Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, I've heard about some of the sprint car guys that are going to come in and run, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform for the diehard dirt late model fans that are the faithfuls. So there is some pressure there, but I'm excited about it. I embrace it. And when you have that pressure and you actually have things go your way, it makes it even better in victory lane.
All right, Jeff, do you have another question for Chris?
No, I'm good. I appreciate it.
All right, Chris, you mentioned the competition. You talked about Bloomquist. Who else? And Davenport, who won the second race last year. Who else among the hardcore super late model racers do you view as like your toughest competitors, and do you have a rival?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that, Brandon Overton was there last year, and Brandon's won. He won over $800,000 or $900,000 last year outside of Bristol. I'm gonna say he's gonna be a tough one. Chris Madden's been running exceptional this year. Chris is gonna be one of those guys that are gonna be tough to beat. Um, there's no telling who all is gonna show up, but I think guys like Kyle Strickler that are good on the big half miles, Bobby Pierce, he seems to be a big race guy. There's a lot of guys that are just that can show up and win, and out of those three or four, they're the ones that I'm going to be kind of keeping my eye on. And what's great about dirt late model racing though is typically there's another 10 or 15 that can surprise you at any point. So there's no telling who's going to win, to be honest with you.
And did you say you have a rival, or no, or not yet?
If you looked at the race from last weekend, me and Davenport kind of got into it, but I wouldn't per se. I don't really have a rival. It all goes week to week. It depends on who you kind of get into or who you're racing with. And last year I kind of got into it a little bit with Brandon Shepard at a couple events, and we were a little bit of a rival there in October. But the sport's so up and down with drivers that it changes all the time.
All right, sir. Well, we appreciate your time. Brandon, did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Chris just one final question. And you talked about the up and down shifts with drivers. You're not one of those guys who is following a series like the World of Outlaws or Lucas Oil, and the landscape of dirt has kind of changed over the past years, with, XR coming in, the big money races, and drivers showing up to get those crown jewel events. Do you see that as an advantage to you who's doing that, and is that dirt landscape changing as much as we might think?
It is. It's at one point in my career, I thought it was a disadvantage not racing as much as those guys. And now that I'm picking and choosing the big races that I want to go race, and I have time to really focus on making my cars faster and getting the right people to work with us in the right areas. I think nowadays, if you have the right people in the right places, you can go be successful, win the big races, win the ones that count, and not have to race full time. You don't have to go race 100 to 120 races like, Dennis Erb Jr., Brandon Shepard, Bobby Pierce runs. You can go run 50 to 60 races, and if you run good enough, you make the same amount of money, and you don't spend. You spend a fraction of what the fuel cost would be. You got to figure your fuel bill will be in half if you run 50 races compared to 100. So the landscape's changing, but I think in my opinion, it's for the good for the sport. I think you can still race as much as you want. But nowadays, if you get the right people in the right places, you can still show up at big races and outrun those guys that have the experience on you.
All right. Well, Chris, we appreciate your time, and we'll let you get back to your practice session there in your sim, and we'll look forward to seeing you out here in a couple of weeks.
Perfect. Thank you guys for having me. I look forward
Thanks,
to it.
Chris. Appreciate your time, bud.
Thank you,
Thank y'all.
Chris.
Thanks.
Thanks.